What if I told you that the greatest military commander in history was one step away from being fired? The year is 1231. The great Subutai is 57 years old, and his army has just been crushed by the forces of the Jin Dynasty. His Khan, Ögedei, is furious. Subutai's career, the legacy of a hero of dozens of battles, hangs by a thread. And standing against him is the last great army of China, more than 100,000 elite warriors. Some sources even say as many as 150,000. Subutai has fewer than 50,000 men. The enemy is led by their greatest national hero, Wanyan Chen Heishang, a man who has already defeated Mongol armies 3 times before this. This is a study in contrast, discipline versus numbers, experience versus desperation. This is not just a battle. This is the grand finale of a 20-year war. At stake is the fate of the entire Jin Empire, which has ruled northern China for over a century. But here is the twist. Subutai is not going to attack. He is going to force these 150,000 men to die of hunger, of freezing cold, and of sheer terror for weeks. This is the second episode in our series on the genius of Subutai. Last time we witnessed his stunning triumph at the Kalka River. Today we will witness his greatest humiliation and his greatest comeback. Today you will see how a mocking letter from a Jin general nearly cost Subutai's head, how the Mongols completed an impossible winter march through icy mountains, fighting on 2 fronts simultaneously, and how Subutai turned a 3-week chase into the perfect strategic trap. The war against the Jurchen Jin Empire had already dragged on for 20 years. It began back under Genghis Khan. The Mongols took cities, won battles, but the Jin, like a hydra, simply refused to die. In 1230, the new great Khan, Ögedei, son of Genghis, decided enough. The plan was simple. Ögedei would attack from the north, and Subutai, recalled from the distant west, would strike from the south. The plan failed. The Jin forces locked themselves inside the impregnable mountain fortress of Tongguan. The Mongol cavalry, masters of the open steppe, proved powerless against mountains and stone. It was then, in 1231, that Subutai suffered a defeat. He was beaten, not just stopped, but truly beaten. His enemy was not just any commander. It was Wanyan Chen Heishang, the greatest hero of the Jin, a living legend. In a previous battle, commanding only 400 elite horsemen, he had attacked and routed 8,000 Mongols. He was the symbol of hope for the Jin, and he had just defeated Subutai. But the humiliation did not end there. Another Jin general, Ilapua, decided to mock the Mongols. He sent a messenger directly to the great Khan Ögedei. The letter read, "We have caught your spies, and yes, we have smashed your army. All our soldiers and horses are ready, so come on, come and fight us if you dare." Remember this moment. This is the boiling point. Ögedei, generally known for his rather good-natured temperament, flew into an indescribable rage. He was so furious that, according to the chronicles, he spent 9 days alone in his yurt, praying to the eternal blue sky for victory. And he was ready to strip Subutai of his command. A 57-year-old genius, on the verge of a disgraceful retirement. He was saved by Tolui, Ögedei's younger brother, a great warrior, the darling of the army, and arguably the most talented of Genghis Khan's sons. He interceded for the old general. He vouched for him. Tolui was a brilliant warrior, but he did not know that this campaign would be his last. And so, Subutai stands before the Khan, humiliated, almost fired. He's 57 years old. He needs to prove that his genius is still with him, and he proposes a new plan. A frontal attack does not work. The fortresses are impregnable. That means we will not storm them. Subutai proposes the unthinkable, to flank the entire defensive line of the Jin from the south, to march hundreds of kilometers through the territory of the hostile southern Song Empire, to smash through the icy, impassable Qinling Mountains, and to do it in winter. It was a plan bordering on suicide, but it was the only chance. Ögedei, with a heavy heart, agrees. Subutai and Tolui immediately set out on the march. The Tongguan fortress was the key to the entire Jin defense. Taking it head-on was impossible. Subutai decided not to open the door. He decided to walk through the wall. What happened next was not warfare. It was a test of survival. The 50,000-strong army of Subutai and Tolui entered the mountains. In the dead of winter, it was a hellish march. The snow was waist-deep. Icy winds pierced to the bone. Warriors and horses plummeted into ravines. They trudged along narrow paths where only hunters and smugglers had walked before them. The horses, accustomed to the flat steppe, broke their legs on ice-covered rocks. Men froze to death right in their saddles. Provisions ran out almost immediately. They ate what they could find, or they didn't eat at all. And that wasn't all. They were marching through the territory of the southern Song Empire. The Song were enemies of the Jin, but they hated the Mongols no less. They attacked Subutai's army at the mountain passes, set ambushes, and burned villages along their path to deprive them of food. The Mongols fought their way through. They fought the Song just to get out and fight the Jin. Now, imagine what was happening in the Jin capital. Emperor Aizong receives a report. The Mongols, who were expected at the northern fortress of Tongguan, have appeared at the southern border, hundreds of kilometers away. They came through where no one could pass. It was panic. Aizong realized, if they are not stopped right now, they will march straight to the defenseless capital. He issues an order. Assembled the last great army of the empire, everyone who can hold a weapon. The Jin draw together more than 100,000 warriors from everywhere. Some records say 150,000. This was their best army, their last hope. Appointed to command it is the experienced veteran Wanyan Haida. With him is that same invincible hero Wanyan Chen Heshong and the arrogant Yila Pua. The three best generals of the Jin, 150,000 fresh, well-armed soldiers. Haida's plan was simple and brilliant. He knew that the Mongols, exhausted by the crossing, would have to cross the Han River. He led his army to the crossing point to attack 50,000 exhausted, frozen, starving Mongols at the moment of the crossing. It was the perfect trap. February 12th, 32. Subutai emerges from the mountains. Before him lies the Han River. Behind him is the hostile Song army, and coming towards them, are 150,000 furious Jin soldiers. Subutai is in a vice. The trap has almost snapped shut. Wanyan Haida was confident in his plan. 150,000 fresh soldiers against 50,000 exhausted ones. This would not be a battle, it would be an execution. He arrived at the river. The bank was empty. Subutai, a genius of reconnaissance, knew about Haida's plan. He did not go to the obvious crossing point. He forced his army to march several kilometers further north, upstream, found a ford, and crossed before Haida could intercept him. The Jin plan collapsed. Now the two armies stood face to face. Any other Mongol commander, Genghis Khan, Jebe,
Tolui would have attacked immediately. That was the Mongol style: fury, speed, onslaught. And right here, Subutai does something that no one expected. He orders a retreat. For Wanyan Heda, this was a gift from heaven. The heroic winter march of the Mongols? Nonsense. They are broken. They are afraid. Chase them! And so began one of the greatest strategic operations in history. Subutai split his army. Corps 1, 20,000 warriors. This is the bait. Their job is to run. To run not too fast so the enemy doesn't give up, but not too slow so as not to be caught. Corps 2, 30,000 warriors. They disappear. They go on a wide flanking raid into the rear of the Jin army. Heda's army cheerfully pursues Subutai. They cover tens of kilometers a day. The Jin soldier laughs, seeing the backs of the Mongols. Victory is close. What they do not see, their supply lines have just been cut. Food begins to run out. Subutai, retreating, burns every village in front of himself. He scorches the fields, poisons the wells. The Jin army is marching across absolutely dead land. The Jin soldier is chewing on a leather belt. He is cold. He hasn't slept in 3 days. It is a catastrophe. 150,000 men in the snow without food for 3 weeks. Discipline has collapsed. They have eaten their own horses. They have started eating each other. And in the rear, Tolui was methodically smashing every wagon train that tried to break through to them with provisions. After 3 weeks of this hell, Subutai stops. He has chosen the place. The hunt is over. The trap is set. February 9th, 1232. The Jin army, or rather what is left of it, reaches Mount Sanfeng. They haven't eaten in 3 weeks. They are frozen. They are on the brink of madness. What the Jin commander, Wanyan Heda, sees, he sees salvation. He sees a mountain, a natural fortress. He thinks he can press his back against the cliffs and neutralize the advantage of the Mongol cavalry. He gives his last, fatal order. Infantry, take position in front of the mountain. Cavalry, the pitiful remnants still on their feet, take cover behind the mountain, in the ravine. But he does not see that Mongol scouts have already mapped his every step. He does not see that Subutai has received reinforcements from Ögedei, fresh, well-fed troops full of fury. And most importantly, he does not see that Tolui's 30,000 horsemen are already moving in a deep flanking maneuver to cut off his path to that very mountain. Subutai gives the order. He throws his part of the army into a frontal attack. The goal of this attack is not to break them. The goal is to fix them in place. The Jin infantry, crazed with hunger, tries to form shield walls. They cling desperately to life. And at that moment, the sky explodes. A blinding blizzard begins. The Jin soldiers, exhausted, starving, in thin clothing, they see nothing. The wind beats into their faces. They go blind. Their hands go numb and cannot hold their spears. The Mongols, however, hardened steppe-dwellers, wrapped in heavy furs, they grew up in this. For them, this is the signal. Tolui strikes them in the back. The Jin cavalry, trapped in the ravine behind the mountain, was hacked to pieces in minutes. The infantry, attacked by Subutai from the front and Tolui from the rear, found themselves in a cauldron. This is no longer a battle. This is a slaughter. It is the methodical destruction of an army that was already dead. They had been dying for 3 weeks from hunger. Now they were dying from Mongol steel. An army of 150,000 men ceased to exist. By the evening of February 9th, 1232, the last field army of the Jin had been wiped from the face of the earth. The scale of casualties was apocalyptic. Of the 150,000-strong army, almost no one returned home. Tens of thousands fell in that snowy trap. But Subutai was not interested in the soldiers. He was interested in the commanders. Wanyan Chen Heshishang, the invincible, the man who had beaten the Mongols 3 times. He died in battle, fighting to the last breath. His death became the symbol of the end of hope for the Jin. Ilapua, the very man who sent Ögedei that mocking letter, "Come and fight," he was captured and executed during the panicked rout. He got his fight. Wanyan Heda, the commander-in-chief, he survived the slaughter and was taken prisoner. He is brought before Subutai, 2 great commanders, the victor and the vanquished. Subutai looks at him without hatred, only the respect of one warrior for another. He asks Heda if he has any last words. Wanyan Heda, the archenemy, looks Subutai straight in the eye and says, "I was loyal to my lord until the end, but you are the most excellent of all generals." But Subutai does not celebrate. He is not finished yet. He knows the army is destroyed, but garrisons remain, reserves remain. He gives the enemy no time to recover. February 24th, he crashes down on the remnants of the Jin at the Battle of Yangyi. March 1st, he grinds the last forces to dust at the Battle of Qinling. In 3 weeks, he fought 3 general engagements. He mowed down the entire military elite of the Jin. The path to the capital, Kaifeng, was open. 1234, 2 years later, the Jin Empire, which had been at war with the Mongols for 23 years, fell. It was completely annihilated. Subutai, he is rehabilitated. He did not just restore his name, he proved that his genius is not the fury of Genghis Khan, but a cold, mathematical intellect. Tolui, the youngest son of Genghis Khan, the hero of the Battle of Sanfengshan, the man who saved Subutai's career. He died shortly after this campaign. He did not see the fall of the Jin. He gave his life for this victory.
Let's summarize. In 1231, 57-year-old Subutai was on the verge of a shameful dismissal. In 1232, he conducted perhaps the greatest campaign of attrition in world history. He didn't just defeat an army 3 times the size of his own. He made it march through hell for 3 weeks. He stripped it of food, will, and hope, and only then, at the moment of his choosing, did he destroy it. To understand the scale of Subutai's genius, one must compare. The Battle of Sanfengshan is Napoleon's Ulm campaign of 1805. Napoleon surrounded the Austrian army and forced it to capitulate before the main battle. It is Stalingrad in 1942, the destruction of Paulus's Sixth Army by cutting supply lines in the freezing steppe. But there was one terrifying nuance. Napoleon had roads, maps, and a corps of marshals. The Soviet troops had radio communication, tanks, and aerial reconnaissance. Subutai did this in the 13th century, without radio, without satellites, in a foreign, hostile land, in winter, immediately following a humiliating defeat. If the Battle of Kalka River was a demonstration of perfect tactics, then Sanfengshan became a lesson in pure strategy. Subutai proved that war is not won by the sword, it is won by the mind. The Jin field army is destroyed, but the empire is still alive. Its heart, protected by gigantic walls, is still beating. That is the capital, Kaifeng. In the next episode, Subutai will face an enemy that cannot be defeated by cavalry. He will face tens of kilometers of walls, 1 million inhabitants, and gunpowder. One of the greatest sieges in history awaits us. Subscribe so you don't miss the Siege of Kaifeng, a battle of engineers, fire, and despair. Hit the like button if this episode proved to you that Subutai is a genius, and write in the comments, what do you think is scarier, facing the Mongols in an open field or being trapped with them behind the same wall during a siege?